In this final lesson, I want to talk about injectables and this provided in implication. So if we jump into our service, we learned at the beginning of the course that we can provide our services in the root injector, which means that we do not need to register them in an ng module. When it comes to using standalone components, we would, for example, inject the donut service into the component via the constructor. And the way that we provide this is if we jump into our roots, we're then adding a scoped provider of that donut service on the root level. So this is scoped, which kind of means that we don't need to worry about this provided in the root property anymore. So we could go ahead and just simply remove it, and then things will work as intended. We can jump into the console and just confirm, click around, and we do not see any application errors. So this is an implication of cleaning up our code base ever so slightly again. We then provide any services that we wish on a root level. We could, of course, import the service directly into the component itself. We could, of course, go like this and remove it, which then gives us an error. We do not have a provider for our service, which means that we could go into our donut single component. We could say providers, pass in our donut service, save things out. We could then go to our donut list again, underneath our imports, and then provide it on the component level. So this gives you an interesting approach. You can stick to this approach by providing it on the component itself. However, to save some boilerplate, if you would like to, you can of course provide this on the root itself. Now, things such as the Angular HTTP client module, we're going to leave things like this on the provider roots. If you want to provide it for the entire routing definition, then you know how to. Otherwise, you can jump in and provide it on the component level. Personally, I quite like this approach, so we're going to leave things as is, and that finishes off our refactoring of the course quite nicely. So at this point, we have fully converted our application over to eradicate ng module. We can do a search. You can see that they do not exist in our code base. We have fully refactored our application across to a standalone component API. We've broken our ng modules down into a very simple routing definition where we talked about providing services on a roots level. And if you'd like to, of course, you can provide that service as shown. So we're just going to leave this in here just for memory's sake. But for now, that then cleans up our root configuration. Once again, we end up with a really nice, clean, standalone Angular application. So I hope you enjoyed this bonus chapter on this new standalone component API. It's quite an exciting time for Angular. Things are changing ever so slightly. Now, once again, I just want to reiterate that I wouldn't suggest that you start using standalone components for every single application that you have. Don't go and refactor your application. This is just another way that we can build. And of course, this is going to change over time. I imagine things like import providers from will disappear in the future, and there'll be some better ways to add these providers. But for now, you have a very nice standalone Angular app. We've discussed how to import providers, any existing Angular modules, independent directives, how to use different components, and it's up to you which flavor of Angular you now wish to write, but you have the knowledge to do either or. So with this in mind, I really hope you enjoyed the course. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.